Hello and welcome. Please do not operate heavy machinery while listening to this guided meditation. This practice is brought to you by Copper Beech Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to teaching mindfulness practice and contemplative wisdom to inspire purposeful living, awaken our full potential for compassionate action, and encourage a healing shift in how we relate to one another and our interconnected world. Thank you for joining us, and learn more at copperbeechinstitute.org.
This is for anybody who identifies as a mother, not just folks with biological children. Something that I've learned throughout my life, long before I had children of my own, is that we all carry these qualities of the archetypal mother within us. The caregiver, the comforter, that tender-hearted space, regardless of how we identify in terms of gender, or how our family lives look, is really like this space within the heart that is open to caring for others from this really beautiful and unconditional space. So this is for that space in our hearts that is endlessly giving and that also needs to be filled. So just finding yourself in a position that feels supportive and comfortable for you, whatever that looks like, really meeting your body today rather than the body that you wish were here, and seeing if as you meet this body, you can offer support. So that might mean look like sitting in a chair or on the floor, on a cushion. It might mean laying down, standing, walking, dancing, or moving in some kind of mindful way. Just sort of honoring, again, the body that's showing up, and how can we care for this body and allow it to come into a place that feels at once restful, but also allows us to heighten our awareness of ourselves for the next little while. Offering yourself any kind of support too, particularly if you're deciding to sit or lay. So that might mean support at the lower back or underneath the feet, might mean underneath the head, or giving yourself a blanket. Just really honoring that. Again, just kind of calling up those mothering qualities towards ourselves, that capacity to really be with ourselves and care for ourselves rather than it always referring outside of ourselves. And once you feel like you've found that space that feels comfortable as best as you can, supported and balanced, start to just settle into yourself. I always find it really helpful to offer 3 deeper than average breaths, inhaling through the nose, exhaling out of the mouth with an audible, cathartic, sighing sound. So let's do that together if that feels nourishing to you. One more. And just allowing the body to have its weight, really feeling the impact of gravity, letting ourselves be held rather than holding ourselves up as much. Letting the forehead widen, either closing the eyes completely or letting the gaze soften, letting the eyes feel soft and heavy. Noticing if the teeth are clenched, just gently parting the teeth, letting the jaws slacken, the tongue feel heavy in the bowl of the mouth. Letting the shoulders soften, inviting a widening across the chest and the belly. Letting the elbows feel heavy, the hands soft and wide. Releasing into the pelvis, the legs, the feet. Again, just allowing yourself to be held as much as you're willing and able. One of the ways that place of the archetypal mother can be just kind of moved out of alignment is when we go too deeply into giving and never allow that space to receive. So here we work with this practice of mothering ourselves. What might it feel like to allow yourself to be held rather than the one holding? To allow yourself to feel supported simply by the chair or the bed or the couch or the ground beneath you rather than being the one supporting. Feeding ourselves by allowing rest rather than the one feeding others. And honoring that one space is no better than the other. It's just watching when we go too deeply into one realm, how that can just bring us out of balance with ourselves. And that joyful giving can then become incredibly depleting. And so here, really giving ourselves that permission to fill up our own well, so that when the time comes to give water, there's water to give, and we're not just scraping the empty bottom or robbing ourselves of our own water to give to others. And if it's helpful to you, let the breath start to feel like it has this kind of flowing quality. If imagery is helpful to you, maybe even imagining that with every inhale, you're actually filling yourself with this kind of life-giving water. That spring water that's full of all these essential minerals. And as you exhale, you just give yourself over to being supported, being held. And staying in this really simple space, using the breath as a way to kind of come back to this over and over again, this kind of inhale to fill ourselves and exhale to allow ourselves to surrender enough to be held, to be supported. But if the breath isn't a nourishing place for you to land in awareness, using that image in your mind, if that's helpful, as if we're just sort of drinking in this beautiful, fresh mountain spring water. And then in that sort of next moment, just allow yourself to be held. And notice resistance. Notice all of the ways we tell ourselves that we cannot be cared for. We can only care for others. And honoring our own humanity within this. And how powerful it is when we can open to receive. Inhaling nourishment, that sort of revitalization that can come from drinking in that kind of nourishment. Exhaling, surrendering the need to be constantly in the care of others and letting yourself be cared for. just gently noticing the body again, and once more just inviting that kind of softening down. Whatever physical form you've taken, even if you're moving, there can be this kind of releasing of the arms a little bit, this kind of greater willingness to let the face be soft, the tongue slack, the teeth parted, the belly heavy and supple. And see if there's a willingness within yourself to offer mothering back toward yourself. And again, here, really touching into that archetypal mother, whether you are a biological mother or not, is really of no consequence here. It's really about offering that quality of unconditional love and care that's so often given away. And here the invitation is to give it to oneself without guilt, without shame, which might not be what's happening, but that is what we invite. Can we proudly offer this to ourselves, give ourselves that permission to care for ourselves without feeling selfish? You are allowed to have this time. You are allowed to be held and supported and cared for. And that doesn't mean that you are incapable. It doesn't mean you are incompetent. It just speaks to this reality that we cannot drink from an empty well. Inhaling, drinking in the nourishment that we are allowed to offer to ourselves if we make that bold and courageous choice. Exhaling, surrendering our weight, letting ourselves feel supported by that which is beneath us. And perhaps out of this space, allowing something to emerge, this recognition that you matter. And through that recognition, perhaps there's a greater space of permission to take the time and the space for yourself. Inhaling nourishment, exhaling release of the need to hold it all up. Let yourself be held. And gently, if it feels supportive to you, offering a hand to your heart. To that mother within all of us. And if it feels resonant, just offering this acknowledgement, just saying, I'm proud of you. And I acknowledge you for all of the ways you have cared for others. And for right now, you are allowed to care just for yourself. And because love and care are infinite, by caring for ourselves, it doesn't take that away from others. It actually enhances it. Just resting here for a little while with your hand on your heart, or just acknowledging the heart space. And if it feels good, if it feels necessary, keep repeating to yourself, I'm proud of you. I acknowledge you for all that you do, for all that you give, for all the ways that you care for others. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of myself. Just staying in this space of recognition and honoring for 3 more minutes, using it as a mooring point for the boat of your mind. Anytime it just sort of drifts away, just gently let that moor, just sort of tug it back to that space of acknowledgement, even of celebration for all that you do and all that you are. And gently coming back into an awareness of the body or the breath or the sounds in your environment. You can keep your hand on your heart or just let that go if you had your hand there, whatever feels resonant for you in this moment. And then just slowly starting to brighten the body if you are in a quieter space of the body and sitting, standing, or laying. If it serves you, letting the breath just be a little bit fuller without strain or striving. And slowly just allowing the eyes to brighten. If it calls to you, just repeating thank you a few times to yourself for being with yourself for these moments, for giving yourself the gift of your own presence and attention, for acknowledging the incredible, capacious heart of the mother.